Hey guys, welcome back. Listen, I wanted to talk a little bit and thank some people here tonight. Picking up some followers. I do appreciate you guys following. If you don't want to follow, I understand. Having a nice thumbs up. That's always a help to give me some encouragement and show me somebody's appreciating what we're doing here. And appreciate the help from the guys here too. So I want to thank first Super Hash Bro M. Sends me comments. I love hearing from everybody. Send me your comments. He had some questions. He said, "What rank did you achieve there?" Okay. Well, you go through basic training. Most of the guys got out of basic training with private first class. I didn't make that. Our drill sergeant got hurt. Somebody else stepped in. Nobody in our platoon in the training, I think we were platoon C or something like that. Nobody made PFC. We were all privates. And the second question was, what was the weapons training like? What did we achieve there? Well, when you go through the basic training, you get, I think it was an M1 carbine. It was a big old heavy rifle. You had to carry that the whole time when you ran and everything. Then when they started doing the weapons training, you shot that for about an hour, okay? Then they took that away from you and you shot an AK-47. Now that we found out later was to get you used to what the enemy was using. So the AK-47 was a nice short heavy weapon. It felt comfortable. The sights were pretty easy. It was pretty easy to maintain. And you learned how to take it apart, clean it, put it back together, mostly so the next guy could use it when he came there. And then we went to the M16. And they did that in that order to show you how much better of a weapon the M16 was and how it went from the Korean War rifle to the AK-47, which the Viet Cong were using, was a Russian rifle, and to the M16, which a lot of guys use. The kit, it should say Mattel on it. It was nice and light, had a handle on the top, was easy to clean. The early versions had a tendency to jam if you didn't keep them clean, but believe me, you kept them clean, so you didn't want to have a problem if you ever had to use it. And while we were in basic training, we learned how to use the M79 grenade launcher. It was like a little short shotgun. The shells were like a giant shotgun shell. You broke it, you put the shell in, and you learned how to fire it on an angle, like a small mortar shell, I guess, was the idea. So you could see how far it would go before it would land. It would go a couple hundred yards. It was pretty neat. And the thing about the shell, it had to rotate so many times before it would arm itself. So if it accidentally went off and it was only 3 or 4 feet away, it would just hit the target and fall on the ground. But if you launched it where it went up and it did the rotations, then it armed itself, and when it hit, it would blow up. It didn't have a timer on it like an RPG, where you could set it for an anti-aircraft or anti-personnel. You wanted to shoot it over top of a group of people and have it blow up while it was in the air. Be more effective that way. We didn't have that. It was just a M79 grenade launcher. The last thing we learned to use was the 60 caliber machine gun. That's the one we have the bandoliers of ammo. The way they set it up, you also did a shotgun. The way they set it up on patrol, the first guy or the first two guys had their M16s with them, but they also had shotguns because they were the ones that would probably run into the enemy first. They were going to be close combat, and they had to be able to cover a lot of area very quickly. So you had 5, 6 shot shotgun, pump shotguns. The second guys all the way back were M16s. Somewhere in the middle was the guys with the 60 caliber machine gun. The unfortunate part, I was 6'2", about 220 pounds. So I was one of the bigger guys in the patrol. I got to carry the 60 caliber machine gun. Now what they do with you is they put 2 guys with you to carry more ammo. So you carry 1 bandolier of ammo in the 60 caliber machine gun. You have 1 bandolier on you, thrown over your shoulder or on your pack. And the other guys had the ammo boxes. And they each had 1 or 2 boxes of ammo. And they had their M16. So you were kind of really loaded down. And believe me, you took at least 1 or 2 canteens of water too when you were out on patrol, because it was hot, the equipment was heavy, and man, the adrenaline was flowing. Because anything that moved, everybody froze and everybody was trigger happy, ready to shoot the first thing that moved, okay? So that was what we did. On what did I achieve? I achieved the expert marksman. I didn't go to the advanced training, the guys who got orders. We went through 6 weeks of training, then everybody got their orders, what they were going to be in the Army. I got mine, I was going to be a grease monkey mechanic because I had a civilian acquired skill. I was 16, 18 years old, we were drag racing on the street. I could take a Chevy apart and put it back together blindfolded at that age. Probably you could still do the old cars now too, not the new ones. But so I knew what I was doing around the vehicles. So when I got my orders, I was shipped off right to Fort Benning, Georgia. The other guys went to the other side of Fort Bragg, North Carolina for advanced training. I think they did some booby trap training, mines, and got more acquainted with the weapons, the caliber, 60 caliber machine guns, the M79s, how to use them on patrols and things like that. So thank you, Super Hash Bro, for your questions there. When I left the military, I left from Vietnam. I was discharged. Flew back from Vietnam to Oakland Air Force Base in Oakland, California. That's where I got discharged. And I was a Spec 4. And while I was in Vietnam, I was an acting Spec 5, which was a bunch of bull because you didn't get any extra money. You didn't get to wear the stripe. You got a pin saying that you were in charge at the motor pool. There was a 3-stripe hard sergeant and an E6. That's 3 stripes with 1 under, yellow stripes. They were the ones that were in charge of the thing because they were the hard stripes. And we were the specialists because we were mechanics and things like that, carpenters. All those guys were specialists in that field, okay? So that's what happened to me. I want to shout out to RG. Let's see what RG had to say. Oh, he got his physical, and that's pretty much what he remembers is bending over and spread your cheeks. I laughed when I read that. Thanks, RG, because that's one of the most embarrassing physicals you ever have. I mean, there's a bunch of guys, hundreds of guys you don't know. There's doctors, nurses, male nurses, female nurses, and you're standing there in your birthday suit for most of the day, barefoot, following everybody around. A lot of guys just had on like tighty-whities, underwear, boxers. That's all you wore. And at times you didn't even wear that. You'd take it off, stand in line right up against the guy in front of you, hand your paperwork in. They checked whatever they were going to check, and you had to move on. Rick Lovelace, he mentioned Alice's Restaurant. If any of you remember that, that was a funny show. And we enjoyed all those shows and all the things. I mean, you had to have some kind of comic relief because pretty much day to day you were stressed out about what was going to happen and how you were going to survive, because everybody wanted to go home. Nobody wanted to get hurt. A couple guys did get hurt, accidental discharges on the thing, landmines driving down the back roads, down the dirt roads especially were dangerous, going out to the field to do the construction sites because that's what we were in. We were in a construction unit, the engineers. So that was a big part of that. Ray Ferguson wrote about the drugs and the girls. I mentioned that in an earlier video. Drugs were everywhere. You could get anything you wanted. All you had to do was leave the base, go downtown, just go down a road, and there'd be a motorcycle with 2 guys on it, 2 young teenagers, and you wave them over, and they would come up next to you if they were selling. They would come up next to you. You would tell them what you wanted. Spoke pretty good English, too. Tell them what you wanted, and you handed the money out. You did not stop. You kept driving down the road, and you handed them the money. They handed you the drugs, whatever you wanted. Marijuana, cocaine was all available from them. One guy driving, you negotiated with the guy on the back of the motorcycle and got the stuff. You had to hide the stuff in the truck to get back onto the base because you had to go through the MP checkpoint to get back on the base. girls were everywhere, working girls, uh, trying to make some money, turning tricks. So you had to be careful with all that. There was all kinds of problems with that too. All kinds of diseases and stuff going around. It was really scary about that too. And so I want to thank you guys for your comments. Send me your comments. Give me a short story. 3, 4, 5 sentences. I like to talk about it, and share your stories with everybody else. Everybody else can read the comments, but it's really fun hearing from you guys. Thanks again. They're the basic training stories I went through. I got a lot more stories to tell about Fort Benning. Fort Bragg was ain't no sense in looking down, ain't no discharge on the ground. Fort Bragg. All right, guys. See you next time. Be safe out there, and welcome home to the veterans.